So good morning everyone, welcome to Powerless Penguins United Big Book Study. This week I'm pleased to reintroduce Mags P, who has kindly agreed to come along and share her experience on the Big Book. Over to you, Mags.
Thank you, Laws, for your service. Happy Saturday, like our friend in Israel has just said before. Happy Saturday. It feels, I was here yesterday as well. It was lovely. 2 mornings in a row. And it's great to see all the familiar faces and maybe some new ones on here as well. Whilst I've been listening to the readings, sometimes week from week I get, messages from people in between the Saturdays, thanking for service and asking some queries or questions about the content. But it's jumped into my mind this morning that Laws has been with me from the start as the host on this meeting, and everybody that shows up here every week to do service, it's incredible really. It's been going now for over a year, and there's still a good bit to go because we're on the 9th step promises. So still a good bit to go to page 164, if the group conscience decides that they wish to continue to have it in this format, of course. So I just want to give a very special shout out to everybody in the Penguins that does service, because you are such a dedicated team, 6 days a week, and it's a phenomenal thing to be part of this group, and how you are really and truly going with the big book and the spiritual principles. So for some reason this morning I just feel really really delighted to be part of all of this. And when I came into the meeting this morning, there was a lot of energy. One of our fellows is celebrating, or has celebrated yesterday, a very special birthday. So little nod to the beautiful gentleman with always the beautiful hats. No matter what time of the day you see him, he's always got those beautiful hats. Everybody will know who I'm talking about. So a very special human birthday. Is that what they call it? Some people say belly button birthday. I hate the word belly button, so I don't use it. So human birthday. I know I'm on one this morning, everybody. I'm on one. Anyway, the energy in the room was really beautiful coming in this morning, and let's just take all of that energy into the rest of the meeting. And what I'm simply going to do is to start with those 9th step promises. We're at the bottom of page 83. Over the last couple of weeks, we've covered all of the masterly detail and clear-cut directions around the different types of amends that there are to make. They share in a very general way how we can approach these amends in a very sincere, genuine, authentic, calm, confident manner. And I hope that has been helpful over the course of the last lot of weeks. But to bring us into really focusing on what these promises are actually saying. We haven't done this for a while. Feel free to turn off your screen, close your eyes, do whatever. Obviously, if you're driving, don't close your eyes. Isn't that what they say at all at the beginning of all of the meditations? When you're in a safe place, please close your eyes. But whilst driving or using equipment, probably best you don't. Anyway, if you feel like doing that, then please do, because it's important to bring us into what we're actually going to experience, what we're going to receive. So if we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We're going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past, nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity, and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. They will always materialize if we work for them. Like for me this morning, when I read this, even before coming on to the meeting, those words are really and truly remarkable. And this is what I have experienced in my life. And that I genuinely mean that from the bottom of my heart. And sometimes we can, when we're reading these promises, do a disservice, I think, because it just, rolls off our tongues. It's like that whole thing with chapter 5, how it works. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed a path. There are those that could not, that we're not tapping into it. And I always think of the newcomer. It's okay for us that have been around for, a few months or a couple of years, whatever the period of time. And we're just reading it because, oh, look at me. I know this. I don't even have to look at the book. And it's not about that. For the people that are in the rooms for the first time, what are they hearing? What are they experiencing of this stuff? Because we're here to carry the message to the newcomer. That's the purpose of our meetings. It tells us at the bottom of page 15, the meetings are where the newcomer comes to find the fellowship that they wish to seek. And also we do a kind of disservice, because often when you go into meetings, they'll hand out the reading to somebody and they'll say, can you read the AA promises? And then they'll start to read the 9th step promises. And we need to be clear about the fact that personally, I don't know what it means to read the AA promises, because we've got 3rd step promises, we've got 5th step promises, we've got 9th step promises, we've got 11th step promises. There's many promises throughout the book. The first promise is on the very front cover page. The very front cover page, when they tell us that they're going to show us how many thousands of men and women have recovered from alcoholism. That's your first promise in the book, because that's what's going to happen with you if you follow the clear-cut directions that are set out in masterly detail. And the words that are within this are just phenomenal. I'll probably jump about the book a little bit, so maybe get ready for that. I just thought these were words. I never thought that these words were actually going to be a lived experience. I never thought that they would become part of my life. I just thought they were the words on the book. I just thought they were like, sometimes when you read a poem, you're like, oh, that's nice, isn't it? And you see the little visualization of what they're describing in the poem. But when I really concentrate on these 9th step promises, genuinely I can feel it because I've experienced it. And if it's not yet your experience, it will become that if you do what is suggested. And the words are so important. to bring those alive. Hopefully that's what we're going to do through the course of this time together. So let's get stuck into it. If, that first word, we're not going to get very far this morning if I keep just doing this one word at a time. But that first word, if, I love that word. Because it's so conditional. If we do this, if we don't, it's so conditional. If you complete what is suggested with regarding your 9th step, making direct amends to those people that you have harmed, except when to do so would cause harm to them or others. If, it's so conditional. Like you hear me say all the time about the program, if we do the work, it works. If we don't, it won't. So remember that. That's why sometimes I think, at the beginning of the steps, when they're set out in the short form, you can often put the word actually in front of them. Have you actually made direct amends? So if, and this next word, painstaking. If we are painstaking, break that down into 2 separate words. Painstaking. Because it might feel through this process of making your amends that you're in some pain, or you're taking some pain. This isn't the first time you've heard this word in the Big Book. It's also mentioned in the foreword to the 2nd edition when it talks about the first 100, when they painstakingly responded frantically to 800 inquiries that came into the New York office when the book was first published. They were painstaking about what they were doing at that time. They were so convinced by the message that they had and the experience that they had that they took the time to get it into print and publish it to all of us to be sitting here nearly 90 years later, basking in the abundance of what this program brings to us. So this carries on today, but it's interesting. So if we are painstaking, and when I say it's going to take some pain, because it did feel painful to me sometimes going into these conversations, but let's look at it another way as well. I love a definition or two. If you look up the definition of painstaking, it also means an action or person that is extremely careful, diligent, thorough, and they're undergoing something that requires a great effort and attention to detail, taking immense trouble to ensure accuracy or long-term dedication. Right, that's a pretty substantial definition of painstaking. But what I also reflect on, for me, is that is a demonstration of a psychic change. That is the demonstration of a personality change. Because I was never that person who could take action. I was never that person within my addiction who was careful or diligent or thorough. I put every great effort into my own things and I paid great attention to detail, but it was all for what I wanted so that I could get what I wanted. I went to, great lengths to get what I needed to satisfy my needs. But the reality of it is there was no dedication, definitely not long term, to anything really, because of the circumstances in which I found myself. So the point I'm trying to make here is that by the time you get to this point in the program with your sponsor, by the time you're going out to do these amends, you're an entirely different person from the person that started on step 1. Somebody has just put some information into the chat that this is their very first meeting. Well, you're welcome. And don't just keep coming back. Please stay, because what we're talking about here today will become your life. It's a cast iron guarantee that every single one of the promises in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous will become yours. If you are diligent, if you follow the clear-cut directions, if you follow what is set out in masterly detail, from the bottom of my heart, I cannot tell people enough how precious this program is when it's followed the way that it's set out. This is the easier, softer way. It might not be like that as you're going through it with your sponsor, but that's where the personality change is taking place. That's where the psychic change, as they call it, is taking place. Little by little, as you show up, turn the pages and have faith in this process, this painstaking action where you become extremely careful and diligent and thorough, will set you up for the rest of your life. That's what happens. There is no if about it. There is no but. There is no maybe. That's exactly what happens. The next thing, if we're painstaking about this phase of our development, isn't that amazing? This phase of our development. There's so many phases of your development ahead as you continue through the rest of the steps. There's a phase of your development in step 10. Can't wait to get into there. There's a phase of development within step 11. Can't wait to get there. And an immense phase in your development in step 12 when you start working with other people and carrying this message. They're talking about this phase of our development. That brings me back to where we're talking about on page 60. You know, this is we're not saints. This is about spiritual progress, not spiritual perfection. This is about spiritual development. This is the first phase of our development. Well, not the first phase. You've been developing the whole way through. But for this phase of our development, and here's the myth that needs to be busted, the next line. We will be amazed before we're halfway through. That is not referring to being amazed when you're halfway through the steps. Okay? Knock that one on the head. That is not what they're referring to. What they're saying here is that you will be amazed before you're halfway through your amends. Because often I'll hear people saying, oh, I've got to step 6 and nothing's happening. It tells us you'll be amazed before you're halfway through. No, that's not what it's referring to. You will be amazed before you're halfway through your amends. So if you've got a list of names, you'll be amazed as to what happens with you, for you, and with the other people before you're halfway through. I was amazed after number 2. And then I continued to be amazed again and again and again and again every time I had a conversation. I was thinking about this morning as I was pottering about getting ready, and I remember this, some people might know my sponsor, they might think this is funny. But I remember after my, first, second, third, fourth, fifth amends, calling my sponsor after each one and saying, you'll never believe what happened. You'll never believe what happened. And I was getting all excited and telling him about everything, and he was just silent at the other end of the phone. I'm thinking, why isn't he getting excited? Does he not realise how amazing this is? Does he not even understand what I've gone through to get to this conversation? Does he not even understand how embarrassing it was for me to sit in front of these people? Does he not even understand that I deserve a gold star and a reward for doing all of this stuff? And he just would stay silent. And I can imagine him just nodding his head at the other end of the phone. And he would simply just say, okay, on to the next. Now, that for me was not the gold star reward that I wanted. But what I've come to understand, what I've come to realise is, when he was listening to my excitement and listening to my, oh my God, aren't I great, isn't this great, and all of these people love me again, or maybe they don't, they've left me, but I don't really care, blah, blah, blah. All of the guff that I was saying to him down the phone, he had heard it so many times before. It didn't shock him that I was amazed before I was halfway through. He had experienced this in his own life. So can you imagine at the volume at which he sponsors people, a load of us calling every day, have you heard? Have you heard? Have you heard? He must be sitting thinking, not another one. And I mean that in a very beautiful way, because that's what I experience from people calling me and friends in the fellowship that are experiencing this. And I'm just sitting going, yeah, that's how it is. Why are you surprised at this? This is what happens. You will be amazed before you're halfway through, and you will continue to be amazed. Not only in the 9th step phase of your development, you'll continue to be amazed what's on earth in 10. You'll continue to be amazed at what goes on in 11 and what's going to be given to you. And you will be blown away as to what happens in 12 when you start intensive work with another person that needs this message. So, you know, like it says in our 6 and 7, ready, be ready. I say that to sponsees all the time. Get ready for immediate use. Get ready, people. Because when you start to experience these 9th step conversations, this is all of the stuff that so beautifully gets placed in your life. So you will be amazed before you're halfway through. You'll be amazed at the people's reactions. You'll be amazed at how you've been able to have the conversations because you've followed what it has said and you've kept your mouth shut on many occasions, that you haven't fought back. You'll walk away thinking, oh my God, will the real Mags D please stand up? Because where's she gone to? Yes, Lois, will the real Mags D please stand up? Lois has now become our resident dancer. God, we're really taking this gig seriously. You see, we'll be amazed before we're halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. It has always been there. It has always been there. But we're different. We're no longer tied up in the bondage of ourselves. When I'm tied up in the bondage of myself, I'm not free. When I'm tied up in the bondage of myself, I'm not happy. I think I'm trying to make myself happy, but where's that getting me? Nowhere. It was always there. It just feels new to us in this phase of our development. It just feels new to us because it's a new experience that we're having. Because what we've done through the process from step 3 right the way through to step 7 is we've moved the blocks to the awareness of God's presence within us. It was always there. And I will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. Absolutely not. I have no embarrassment about anything that has happened in the past. Through this grace of this program and showing up and turning the pages and taking the spiritual action every single day that continues for the rest of our lives, I no longer regret the past. I don't have to walk to the other side of the street to avoid people. I no longer have to look at the number on the telephone and think, oh no, I'll just send that to voicemail. I no longer have to shy away from ex-colleagues or friends that no longer wish to be friends. You know, I'm comfortable with you being in my life if you wish to be in my life. I'm comfortable with you leaving my life if it's the right thing for you to leave my life. And I'm comfortable with you staying if it's the right thing for us. I'm so comfortable with all of that. Because that's the freedom from the bondage of myself. I'm no longer shackled to the people that I used to be because I tried to hold them hostage, you know. And in me having that freedom, they also get a level of freedom too. Probably even more than I can anticipate that they have. So, you know, this is not just about me. This is about the person that I'm making the amends to. And we will never know probably the experience that they have with the grace of their power. It's the most beautiful set of promises that has this ripple effect really across the planet. And I know that might sound really woo-woo, but the reality of it is when I affect change in me, I can affect change in others. And we can affect change across the world. You know, in the foreword to the 2nd edition, it talks about, you know, intensive work, one alcoholic with another, ensures permanent recovery. Not just my own personal recovery, you've heard me say this before, but permanent recovery across the world. That's what we're doing here. We're having this cause and ripple effect across all of our relationships, this ripple effect in our life. And I'm not shutting the door on the past. No, there's no, skeletons in my wardrobe. Unless I've forgotten about them and somebody comes and wants to make an amends to me and raises it with me. But that's okay too. I'm prepared for those conversations. I no longer shy away from somebody wanting to have a conversation with me about what might be happening in their life, whether they're in the fellowship or not. I'm willing, I'm honest, and I'm open-minded, because that's what this program has given me, the essential and indispensable requirements for the rest of my life. You see how everything ties into, we're talking about the spiritual experience at the back of the book, the willingness, the honesty, the open-mindedness. And as we move through, there'll be a few things that we tie in from the beginning of the book right into our 9th step promises. We will comprehend the word serenity. Comprehend. You're going to understand the word serenity. You're going to know what it truly means to have serenity in your life. It's not just the serenity prayer, again, that we can just read off in like 20 seconds at the end of a meeting. You're truly going to understand it, know it, experience it, and you're truly going to know peace. The craziness and calamity that was once your mind no longer, it doesn't continue to exist. If you do the work, it works. If you don't, it won't. Like it says in the 3rd step promises on page 63, we have a new employer, another word for God. It's capitalized, another pronoun for God. We have a new employer. I've said this before. I am paid abundantly in serenity and peace in my life. The cash and prizes genuinely don't mean anything to me like they used to. Not at all. Not at all. The abundance of peace and serenity overrides everything. And I don't want to get to the point where that ever becomes something that I lose. And I know that I won't if I keep on doing what is suggested, because as we continue to develop through the next phases of our development, then it's only going to get better and better and better. That's the whole thing. This spiritual progress enables life to get better and better, and not just better. It's a completely and utterly different life. Like it says in the doctor's opinion, our lives are recreated. I don't recognize the life from the past. That's why I don't regret it, but I don't recognize it. I acknowledge it for what it is. That beautiful past that I had, I didn't see it as beautiful at the time, but what the grace has given me and what this program of action and this program of recovery has given me is the opportunity to look back on my life and say, do you know what? Thank you, because that's what got me here today. That's the power. That's what's given to us with a little bit of effort. And everybody knows this point. Everybody knows the point that they went so far down the scale. Everybody knows the point where they thought they hit that phrase rock bottom, and it never ever happened, because there's always a trapdoor, and you fall again and again and again and again. I will rarely use the term rock bottom because I never experienced it. I kept falling. And it was only when I got to the point of page 30, as it's described there, it's only when I got to pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization did I realize I got to do something. My circumstances made me willing. My circumstances made me willing to go through this process. And I became willing. Because in the beginning, I didn't have that willingness. I became willing to have faith, not in God, but to have faith in this process. And in having faith in this process, it has got me to the God. It has given me access to the power, which has changed my life, which has given me these 9-step promises and so much more. So what I recognize today is that pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization now was my experience because it can benefit others. Every single thing that I go through in my life enables me to help others. So I can sit with another sick and suffering alcoholic and addict and nod like my sponsor did with me. Nod not from a spiritual hilltop like it says later on in the book, but nod in understanding, nod in compassion, nod with that friendly smile, nod without looking down on me at all, nodding in acceptance of me where I am in my life and nodding to let me know with reassurance that he had what I needed to get me through to this stage. My previous experience, my bitter experience that ultimately nearly killed me, can now benefit others. Isn't that remarkable? Isn't that a miracle of healing? And that's why I don't regret the past. And even in my life now, through those certain trials and low spots that have hit me, that will have hit you, those certain trials and low spots, the same applies to those. They make me more useful to other people because I never know in the future when I will engage with another woman who's going through that in her life, and I'll be able to nod and say, I understand. And this is what we're going to do with the grace and with the power and with the clear-cut directions that are set out within this program of recovery, this program of action. Let's get through this phase of your development together. That's what this is all about. Everything in my life I've come to understand and believe from the bottom of my heart happens for a reason, because it makes me more useful and to be of benefit to other people. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. You know, when you come into the rooms and you're feeling useless, you're beat, you can't see how you can help yourself, never mind anybody else. You come in and you share in the rooms, oh, my partner's left me. I got caught drink driving. I'm due in court. The kids have been taken off me. La 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 la. You know, I wanted people to get their little violins out from underneath their table and start playing a very sad song for me. I was wallowing in self-pity. And nobody got their little violins out and started playing sad songs. They again just continued to nod and thought, aye, well, we'll see what she's like in a few months' time. If she takes the action, you know. That self-pity, can't sit in it. Like it says in Bill's story, the bitter morass of self-pity is stretching all around us. Oh my God, if I see that coming, I don't go near it. I don't go near it. And even if I'm sitting in it for a little while, I can't sit in it for too long. Because I've been trained, I've been given the grace of God, the direction and the command from God to say, get out of there, Max D, get out of there. That is not where you live. I've been given a set of spiritual tools that enable me to choose to see peace, to choose to see things differently. In a millisecond, I can choose to see things differently. Because once I'm sitting in front of these people, making these amends, I no longer have that self-pity. I start to think differently. How I can be useful to them. When they talk to me about how I can make an amends to them, I become useful to them and everybody else around me. Then we will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Absolutely. Look at all of the people on this screen that are dedicated to service in their home groups. You know, we will lose interest. 100%. It takes me back to the 3rd step promises on page 63 again. It tells us, established on such a footing, you know, in this new way of living, where we've turned our will and our life over to the care of God as we're understanding Him, established on such a footing, we became less and less interested in ourselves. Our little plans and designs no longer matter. More and more we became interested in seeing what we could contribute to life. As we felt new power flow in, as we enjoyed peace of mind, as we discovered we could face life successfully, we began to lose our fear of today, tomorrow, and the hereafter. We were reborn. The link between those third step promises and those ninth step promises continues to take place as you turn those pages and do this work. Our little plans and designs no longer matter. We're here to be useful. The self-seeking will slip away. That hideous thought process that we had when we were in our addiction, self-seeking all the time. Oh my goodness me, it slips away. It slips away so beautifully and so gracefully if we allow this power greater than ourselves, if we allow it, if we are painstaking about this phase of our development. And certainly this is what happens. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. I never thought I'd be that person that says everything does happen for a reason in order for me to be more helpful to other people. My whole outlook upon life has changed. My whole outlook upon life has like all of the people on here, I wouldn't be hanging out with you guys. Everybody on this planet has something to give. I am no longer the victim. You can't do me any harm. Doesn't matter who you are. You can't harm me. I am not scraping or serving, like it says in the 9th steps as we've gone through the text over the last couple of weeks. We stand on our own 2 feet. I'm no longer the victim. My entire outlook on life has changed completely and utterly. I see the goodness. I see the kindness. I don't see people who are trying to take, me for a bit of a fool or anything like that. These spiritual tools have been given to me that continue to give me this peace of mind. I don't want to argue. I don't want to fight. I don't want any angstiness. I'm not here to prove a point. I want to listen to what you have to say. My whole outlook in life, you know what? All I want now is a really, really simple life. All I have now is a wonderful, beautiful, simple life. I'm not striving to get. I'm not striving to prove. My whole outlook has changed completely and utterly, and I could talk to you for days about that, but I'm not going to, because I'll probably bore you to death. It'll be like, and another thing, because the outlook has changed so much that I don't even know what to do with it sometimes. It's like, again, where's Mags gone? Where is she? Fear of people and economic insecurity will leave us. It might still be there, but the fear of it is overcome. We might have some financial insecurity at this moment because we haven't got enough money to pay for a bill that we weren't expecting. There might be a little bit of fear there, but we have the tools to be able to overcome it. It will leave us over time as we practice this and practice it and get into the next phase of our development. All of that slips away, like the self-pity. I love this next word. We will intuitively. Intuition. Your inner teacher. That being the great reality that is deep down within every single man, woman, and child. Your intuition. Your inner tutor. Your inner teacher. As a result of that intuition, you will know how to handle situations that used to baffle you. Baffle meaning something that cuts you off from the light. When I was disconnected, I was in the dark, I was baffled all the time. Whereas now I've got this stream, I can only describe it as this. Please don't think it's woo-woo, but I constantly have this stream of light that constantly shows me, guides me, tells me, commands me what to do. And I walk away from conversations sometimes thinking, wow, how did I do that? Or, when you're bringing it to your inventory, you're like, gosh, wow, that was not of me. But my inner teacher is constantly enabling me and guiding me because I'm tapping into it all the time. And we practice that more in the next phase of the development through 10, 11, and 12. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we cannot do for ourselves. All of a sudden, there was one day where I'm thinking, oh my God, this is so different. Those moments, those like light bulb moments where you're like, oh my God, that really stupid thing happened and I didn't pick up a drink. Or you walk into a pub and you're like not bothered by it. You can go to a family event and they're all, whatever around you. And it's like, wow, I'm not fazed by any of that. Or, someone wants to get into an argument with you and you're like, okay, that's no problem. Let's talk about this rather than fighting back. Those little glimmer moments, I call them, where it kind of dawns on us after the event more often for me that, God, that's interesting. That was a different reaction. And now it becomes a working part of the mind. This is just how we deal with things. This is how we live our lives. Just keeps happening. And the more and more we practice it, the more and more I intuitively know how to handle all of these situations that stand in front of me. I'm no longer afraid of it. I don't feel the angstiness. But it takes practice. Of course it does. Are these extravagant promises? I love that question. They're the first 100 that wrote the book, are they extravagant? They're like my sponsor. No, we think not. Can you imagine calling one of them back in the day? Well, big deal. Not extravagant. This is what happens. Get used to it. Get used to it. Because they're not extravagant promises. They really and truly are not so far-fetched that you can't attain them, that you can't receive them, that you're not going to be given them. Because here's the truth. They are being fulfilled among us all the time. When you hear people share with excitement what's happened and they're being fulfilled. Get that word. Full. Filled to the top, brimming over all the time. The miracles are amongst us, is what they say later on in the book. We are filled to the brim of all of these promises all the time. Genuinely, from the bottom of my heart, that is my experience. Now, the pace at which it happens, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, that is the pace at which you carry these out. Sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. If I am taking my time over this list of amends and I'm going to decide to do them over the course of 10 years, then these promises will be fulfilled so slowly. But if I keep the action going and I keep on going through that list, sometimes they'll happen pretty quickly. This is not referring to the pace at which you go through the 12 steps. It's not. That's another myth that needs to be busted. Well, my sponsor's going to do these too slowly. And it tells us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly in those AA steps. That's not what we're talking about. So but get rid of that one, knock that one on the head. Your sponsor's going to take you through the steps in whatever way they're doing in order for you to have the spiritual awakening as the result of the steps. I take people through as set out in the 164 pages. The pace at which it happens is the pace at which it happens. The sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly refers to your amends. If you're doing it slowly, then these things will happen slowly. Do you get my drift? I'm not going to labour it any longer. I think you do. But here's the thing. They will always materialise. They will always be given to you if you work for them. So, if you're sitting in these rooms expecting to get these promises through my new favourite word, osmosis, Lorraine, osmosis, there you go, bingo, 3 times in 1 week. That means I get a tenner on the lottery, doesn't it? 3 times in 1 week I've been able to say that word. It's a difficult word to say. So that's why I get really proud of myself when I can say it properly. But if you think you're going to get this through filtration from other people, if you think you're just going to soak these promises up by sitting in a meeting and listening to what everybody else is experiencing from them, you ain't going to experience the promises. My sponsor would often say to me, when I was checking in, having a bad day and a little bit of self-pity, but where are you with those amends? And I'm like, seriously, he's bringing those amends up again? Sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. And then he'd give me a little nudge to get on with them. If you're not actively participating in your own recovery action, you ain't going to experience these. You can't get it from other people. You've got to do the work yourself. That's the reality of it. Now, the miracle of these 9th step promises continues to blow my mind. Because if you think of where we are now in the steps and how much one has changed, that personality changed right from the very beginning to where you are now. Not so long ago, we were in step 2 and we agnostics. Not so long ago, we were on page 51, where it said, leaving aside the drink question. So at that point, we've left aside the drink question. We know we're powerless, physically, mentally, and that our lives have become unmanageable. So leave all that aside because you understand that. In step 2, they're then telling us, when we leave aside the drink question, the people that wrote the book, the first 100, they tell why living was so unsatisfactory. They show how the change has come over them, right? When many hundreds of people are able to say that the consciousness of the presence of God is today the most important fact of their lives, they present a powerful reason why one should have faith. Then you turn to page 52. From page 51 right the way through, they're showing us how living was so unsatisfactory. And they're showing us how the change came over them. They go into that 3rd step prayer. We go into the inventory in 4. We go into our long talk in 5. We ask for our shortcomings and our defects in 6 and 7 to be removed. We go into all of these amends. So they're showing us how they've overcome all of these things and how this presence of God is the most important thing in their lives. But on page 52, remember these amends, or these bedevilments. When we were having to ask ourselves these questions, we had to apply the same point of view to the fact that we were having trouble with personal relations. We couldn't control our emotional natures. We were a prey to misery and depression. We couldn't make a living. We had a feeling of uselessness. We were full of fear. We were unhappy. We couldn't seem to be of real help to other people. Was the basic solution to these developments more important than whether we put some man on the moon? Absolutely. It was more important. And as you've worked through from page 52, the bedevilments, up to where we are now on page 84, what you've experienced is completely the opposite of the bedevilments. What has been shown to you and what has been given to you through this grace and simply doing the work is that your life has been transformed, will be transformed. My life was transformed from living in, like my sponsee used to say, I used to be a living, walking page 52 to now being someone that's experiencing these 9th step promises. This is the miracle of it. You move from having trouble with personal relationships to losing interest in selfish things and gaining interest in our fellows. And that self-seekingness will slip away. You move from not being able to control your emotional nature to understanding what that serenity and peace is. You move from being a prey to misery and depression to making sure that you have this whole different outlook upon life. Your life entirely changes. You move from not being able to make a living to not being afraid of people or having any economic insecurities. You move from having a feeling of uselessness to feeling useful. And again, that self-pity disappears. You used to be full of fear, but now you intuitively know how to handle the situations that used to baffle you through fear. You were always unhappy, trying to find happiness, when in actual fact, all that is here for you is the new freedom, the new happiness. Back in the day, you couldn't seem to be of real help to other people. Yet here's the miracle of it. No matter how far down the scale you've gone, everything that you've been through, don't regret the past or wish to shut the door on it, because we've been through that to be able to help more people, to be more useful. And the reality of it is, and most important of all, you suddenly realize and know now, and know you've come to believe that this power greater than yourself can restore you to sanity around alcohol. You've come to believe and suddenly realize that God is doing for you everything that you cannot do for yourself. That's the miracle of the 9th step promises. That's the miracle of doing the work. That's the miracle if you actually do what is suggested. And let me tell you, people, get ready for immediate use. Because see, as you move into these daily reprieve steps, you think your life's got good already? Oh boy, get ready. Because more and more glimmers of life and abundance and peace and serenity and being useful and being able to be part of life at last will blow your mind. I'm just going to leave it at that.